All right, watch Trump snap at a reporter and straight up lie after being asked if he plans on going to war with Chicago. Take a listen.
That's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would
I
you
don't
the
go to
Department
war.
of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war.
Okay, dude, the president of the United States just snapped at a reporter and said that's not war after 24 hours ago saying, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. You renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and now you're going to stand there, snap at a reporter, and say, we're not going to war. The rhetoric that comes out of the mouth of the president of the United States matters. Whether it's BS posts like this meant to rile people up and expand his executive power by mobilizing the military, or whether it's him denying that he ever said that 24 hours later. When the president of the United States is this unreliable, unpredictable, and insane, just lying and snapping at reporters, then yeah, we're not going to be trustworthy. We're going to alienate allies, and the country continues to backslide democratically. I have more clips of Trump, just being an absolute baby. But this glorification of the military from the Trump admin needs to stop ASAP. Just yesterday, JD Vance said, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. He says that while leaving out the context that they struck 11 people in a Caribbean boat overseas with no evidence, no due process, no trial, nothing. They just killed 11 people. This could be a boat of fishermen for all that we know. In fact, they did kill a boat of North Korean fishermen back in 2019. I just covered this story recently, but we recently found out that the Trump admin in 2019 had a botched mission to North Korea where they killed a boat of fishermen on accident, then just left. So then Brian Krasenstein points out, killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime. And JD Vance says, I don't give a shit what you call it. Very well said from the president of the United States, who supposedly studied at some of our top law schools, says, I don't give a shit what you call it. So the president of the United States doesn't care what they call it, but I care. The international court cares. International law cares. The people who live in Venezuela, their government cares. They're mobilizing jets that they're flying over the United States now. Rand Paul also points out, Vance says killing people he accuses of a crime is the highest and best use of the military. Did he ever read To Kill a Mockingbird? Did he ever wonder what might happen if the accused were immediately executed without trial or representation? Here's Donald Trump being asked if he plans on targeting cartels inside Venezuela. And the broader point that I want to make here is that this glorification of the military, it's not even like Bush era glorification where it's Dick Cheney out there being a prick. This is like just straight up North Korea glorification of the military. Take a listen to this clip.
Are you considering attacking the cartels inside of Venezuela? You attack.
What are you going to find out? You're going to find out.
So the question is essentially, are we going to go to war with Venezuela? It says, are you considering attacking cartels inside of Venezuela, which would be going to war with them? And he says, you're going to find out. The president is not denying that we could be going to war with Venezuela. In this clip, he awkwardly walks off and waves like he's not an old, cranky, authoritarian wannabe dictator. He walks off. From here, I think it's important to bring in Micah Erfan. Check this out. To break this down further, I want to bring in Mockler Media's lead policy advisor and first-year law student, Micah Erfan. Micah, how you doing today?
It's another day in the United States of America.
With the president of the United States posting memes of Chicago being invaded. Another beautiful day in the United States of America. Can you break down a little bit of the context regarding the facts in Chicago? It's funny. I live and work here, but I think you're better equipped with the facts right now. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so the number of reported homicides this past summer in Chicago was one of the lowest levels in over 50 years of Chicago history. So crime is certainly a problem in the city of Chicago, but this idea that everything the city and Democrats are doing to solve that problem isn't working is just not borne out in the facts. And Trump's ideal solution of, sending helicopters into Chicago and blowing it up like that AI generated image he posted, clearly isn't going to work. We know that in LA, They spent $120 million on their short-term military occupation of the city. That's enough money to hire 1,800 new police officers for the city of Chicago in the long term. So these short-term military occupations consume enormous amounts of resources and are ultimately just a publicity stunt because whenever the National Guard goes home, nothing fundamentally changes. And what we need is long-term change, not more PR stunts by the Trump administration.
And I love your repetition of the phrase short term. That's something that Democrats seem to be repeating. Not only is it short term, but this is a temporary fix. And a temporary fix means that, as you said, right when they go home, we could see a crime continuing. I mean, right now, crime is going down in Chicago, but that's because we have systems in place. We have programs in place passed by the Biden administration. We have a police force that JB Pritzker is coordinating with. We have all of these different infrastructures in Chicago that allow us to fight crime. Nowhere in that infrastructure should there be a temporary mobilization of the military into the streets of Chicago. All that does is inflame tensions, and it does not battle crime long term. What do you think some long-term reductions of crime are? Like, what are the indicators of crime in a city? Is it whether the military is deployed, or is it like social programs being funded?
Yeah, I mean, clearly poverty is one of the leading causations of crime. Also, we have a huge recidivism issue. I mean, you look at the countries with the lowest recidivism rate, they're countries like Norway, where whenever people go to prison, we don't just torture them and tell them that they're beast criminals and then let them back out into the street. In Norway, they actually try to reincorporate people back into society. America currently has the 5th highest incarceration rate in the world. There's no single developed country that's even remotely close. Russia has an incarceration rate roughly half of the United States. China has an incarceration rate substantially lower than the United States. Why is our incarceration rate so high? Republicans want to tell you that we just don't put enough people in jail. I want to tell you that the people we put in jail, we actually make worse criminals. We release them and they're actually more dangerous because of what they experience there. If we want to make a safer society, we need to invest in preventing crime by incorporating certain elements of the population that have been left behind more into our society, providing opportunities. Adam, one of the most effective programs that has been studied on reducing crime is actually a summer jobs program for at-risk youth. These youth have nothing to do that's productive. All the opportunities have been taken away from them. And then we get mad at them when they participate in crime. Why don't we give them opportunities instead of spending $25,000 a year to lock them in jail for 20 years and then release them for them to inevitably commit more crimes?
You know, summer programs sound good, but have we considered just mobilizing the National Guard via the executive branch illegally? Just to point out, this is all illegally. Like, you just can't do this in the first place. DC as a territory is one thing, but in Illinois, Donald Trump cannot mobilize the National Guard. Another point is that Trump is actively, or he did defund the police in multiple ways. In the most literal sense, not like the activists wanted to defund. No, he actually got into power and reduced funding for the ATF. So what Trump keeps doing is removing these long-term policies and opting for short-term executive branch fixes. Can we swap a little bit over on that note to the execution of 11 people coming over here from Venezuela? Now, just to lay the groundwork for all of this, nobody likes crime. Nobody likes cartels. The debate is not about cartels or whether crime or drug smuggling is bad. Of course, it is unequivocally bad. The debate is about due process and a fair trial and whether or not the United States can extrajudicially kill people via the executive branch. Can you cue me in a little bit on this argument?
Yeah, right. So they find these Venezuelan supposed drug smugglers and they decide to just execute them. That's a total violation of international norms and the standard procedures of any sort of moral country. Usually when the government suspects a foreign citizen of crime, we have a process. We detain them. We find if they've actually committed the crime that we have accused them of, and then we have a proper criminal procedure that most likely will go to prison, maybe hosted in a foreign country so we don't have to pay the cost. We don't just execute people summarily. And that's what this administration is doing. And even worse than that, they're posting videos about it. They're proud about it. Whenever JD Vance is questioned about how, this actually might be a violation of international law, which it absolutely is, he says, I don't give a shit, right, about your opinion. There's nobody that cares less about American opinions than our current leaders because fundamentally they see themselves as autocrats, right? They don't see themselves as democratically accountable to the people of the United States. In a sane country, our president and vice president would care when Americans tell them what our opinion is about what we're doing, about what they're doing. Whenever Americans have criticisms, they should be listening because they're supposed to serve us. But it's clear that their mindset has nothing to do with that common idea of basic standards and deference to the American population. They think that they get to make the decisions and our opinion doesn't matter. And I find that really disturbing.
Very well said, coming from lead policy advisor Micah Erfan. You can find all of his links in the description below. And I just want to reiterate, at Mockler Media, we care about bringing the facts, the stats, and punching back against the lies with the truth. So when Micah comes on the show and he has these well-researched, well-presented arguments that then I can use, anybody watching this can use in their debates, I think it's a good way to spread the pro-democracy message. It's like a top-down spreading of here's the facts, here's how we talk about this, here's how we punch back. So thank you to Micah, thank you to you all, and we'll do this again next week, Micah.
Thanks, Adam.
Peace out.